Lions head coach Dan Campbell gets the schedule. 2022 Lions schedule is out, and this is amazing. Every NFL team is supposed to play in prime time once, at least on Thursday nights. And yet, the Detroit Lions will not. They have a 1 o'clock kick, Detroit local time, every single week of the year, except Thanksgiving when they're the first game. So it's basically that early kick. 17 weeks, 18 weeks, 17 games. Every single one kicks off at either 12:30 or 1 o'clock. How could it happen? This is extraordinary. Again, previously, every team was forced to at least play once, and so the bad teams in prime time would play on Thursday nights. But the NFL is wanting to sell this Amazon package, the Thursday night Amazon package with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. Amazon's paying $1 billion a year for this. $1 billion for, my guess is 18 games? No, maybe less, because the Thursday nighter that opens up the season is the NBC game. So maybe they're getting 17 games or something like that for $1 billion.
And Thursday night Thanksgiving is NBC as well.
Right. So, yeah. So maybe 17 games, $1 billion. So the NFL is like, we want to make this thing work. We've got to make the Thursday night schedule good. So they saw the Lions and they said, we don't want them on prime time. And we've got to put them on Thanksgiving. So that'll qualify as their, quote, prime time matchup. Now, this is amazing. As we all know, if you miss any game or any part of a game on Thanksgiving, it's usually the second half of that Lions game early because you're traveling to wherever you need to get to, or you're preparing the food, or you're missing some part of the Cowboys game because you're eating. Unless you've got the TV where you can eat. But so most of America misses at least part of that Lions game, unless perhaps you're on the West Coast and haven't even left the house yet. So they're in the least desirable window on Thanksgiving, and the NFL said, that's fine. It's fine. So this is a pretty remarkable sign of disrespect, that they're like, we can't put them on Thanksgiving and Thursday night football. When again, Thursday night football used to be the outpost of crappy football games all the time. They're on Thanksgiving. That's enough. We can't afford to put them anywhere else, which is extraordinary. So if you're the Lions and you're Dan Campbell, you're like, man, they hate us. You know, it's like the Alonzo Mourning meme. You're just like looking into space and shaking your head like, man, we really suck. I mean, they won't even put us on prime time. Like, they won't even give us like a Jaguars game on a Thursday night in October. And Dan Campbell does what Dan Campbell does. Turns it into a positive. Campbell said, it's awesome. All 1 o'clock games, awesome. 1 o'clock, you knock them out, you go home, you get ready for the next opponent. You're not waiting all day in the hotel, all night for your game. Then you go up. Now you're on a short week. It feels like, anyway, so I've got no problem. And by the way, you can get flexed week 5 through week 15. So who says we can't get flexed? And I got to say, while I have poked fun at Dan Campbell before for crying last year in week 4, and of course Dan Campbell catches a lot of flack for the bite the kneecap comments, and Dan Campbell, I think, is wired a little bit too emotionally to be a head coach for a long time in this league. This is the best spin I've ever heard on everybody telling you, you suck. This is the best. because he's actually right. If you're a fan of an NFL team, what you don't want is to always be waiting for primetime games. You're waiting through the whole weekend for your game. Then you get to Sunday Night Football, and it's late. You might have something to do Monday morning, like work. You might have to get the kids ready for school. And you're like, oh, man, I'm distracted here. I want to stay up, but I can't stay up, but I got to stay up. You're trying to get in and out of a Sunday night. I missed this drive. I missed this quarter. I got it ready for work, etc. Monday night. Now you're waiting another full day. Again, the same thing happens on Monday night. Now you're into your week, and your team now has to play in a short schedule for the next opponent. Also, if you play during primetime nights, maybe you're out to dinner one night, maybe you got a school event, you got to be at a recital or something, you're missing the first half. There's a million things when it's prime time that you could be missing. When you got all 1 o'clocks, you can usually build around it. Now, you might have Sunday soccer. You might have something in the fall where you got to get the kids somewhere, something, but church, whatever. But at least you know every week I can schedule around this every week. And if you're the Lions, this is a great sell to the locker room. Hey, we don't ever work in a short week. We work the way it was old school. Like, we've got the Lions 1964 schedule. Every game is Sunday at 1 o'clock. It's great. Think about it. The Lions are wrapped up with their week by 4 o'clock. They shower. They talk to the media. They get in their cars. They go home, or they get on the flight to go back to Detroit. Every week, it's the same routine. And athletes are creatures of habit. It gives the coaches and the team a full week to prepare for the next week, and great spin doctoring by Dan Campbell. Hey, who says we can't get flexed? In other words, we could be better than people think. We might be playing in a game in October that means something. In November, you might need us in prime time, which is a great little carrot to sit out there. I got to tell you, I have made fun of Dan Campbell. I love this attitude. And the rest of America never has to watch the Lions. It's the best part about this. Besides Thanksgiving, we are never held at gunpoint to watch the Lions. Like the early season Bears games, or the Bears in prime time, have been the bane of all of our existences. How many of you, raise your hand to the car right now, have been subjected to a Giants game or a Bears game in prime time the last couple of years that you've wanted to just puke all over your TV set? Why do we have to watch the Giants and Bears? I'll tell you why. Even though they stink, they got no quarterbacks and revolving coaches, they're big markets. They get a lot of audience. And so they force feed them on prime time. The last thing we need is to be force-fed bad teams. And the Lions, at this point, are a bad team. The question I have after this is that this is the only team they did this to. The Lions play no primetime games and won't even play the late window on Sunday, the second window. They won't even have a 4:25 kick or a 4 o'clock kick. They put them all in the 1 o'clocks, covered up by a wallpaper of all the other games that you don't have to watch the Lions. Are the Lions the single most unwatchable team in the NFL? That's what the NFL has dictated, that they are not worthy of anything besides a 1 o'clock when everything else is going on.
I think the problem is the NFL's too late on this.
Too late.
I think the Lions are going to make the playoffs this year. Like, I think they've actually built it. They're in Hard Knocks this year.
You think they're going to make the playoffs?
The NFC is so weak outside of the top 4 teams.
The Lions are going to make the playoffs.
I think you make a case the Lions are in that next handful of 6 teams fighting for 4 spots, yes.
Wowie.
But they should have been doing this for the last 5-6 years.
Okay, so you do not consider the Lions the most unwatchable team?
No. Honestly, the Giants are probably the most unwatchable team.
Okay, so I would say let's queue up the candidate of teams that are most unwatchable. Giants are definitely in that conversation.
For sure.
The Jaguars are the worst team in the NFL the last 2 years, but they do have Trevor Lawrence.
And Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning head coach.
And the number one pick pass rusher this year in Trayvon Walker. So there is some reason to watch them. I don't think they're the most unwatchable.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you two others. Carolina and Houston, absolutely unwatchable.
I was going to say, the Texans are in this conversation.
The Falcons have Marcus Mariota as their starter.
Unless you consider watching Davis Mills to be interesting.
It's not. It's like watching Mike Glennon with a different jersey.
Okay. The Carolina Panthers are a good one. Matt Rule, dead man walking. No star quarterback. If they get Baker Mayfield, are they still one of the most unwatchable?
I mean, Baker will always be a draw and make them interesting, but the team still stinks.
And he's going to stink too on a
right.
bad team.
And I get that Jared Goff stinks, but there's just a different aura with the Lions right now.
Well, they were hyper competitive in most games last year.
Right, they came on in the second half.
And they lost a lot of close games early too.
Yes.
So Texans, Panthers, Giants, Bears,
definitely, although Justin Fields this year's another one.
Right.
That's the thing. There's a caveat with the Jaguars, the Bears, and the Jets, and that is second-year quarterbacks that we're very interested in. Let's see how big a leap they make.
Well, some people think the Jets can make the playoffs.
I do too.
I don't. But so if the Jets are a playoff-worthy team, they wouldn't be one of the most unwatchable. Right,
I agree. Now, I think the AFC is so good and so deep with quarterbacks that it's going to make it very hard for the Jets, but I think the Jets are going to be much better.
Texans, Giants,
Panthers, and Falcons. I think you're big four.
The Falcons. Kyle Pitts doesn't draw you in, huh?
Yeah, we're going back to Marcus Mariota as their starting quarterback. That's an awful. Oh, and probably what will be the most unwatchable football team this year. When you look at schedule, roster, we didn't even mention, it's the Seattle Seahawks.
I was going to say, the Seahawks are in this conversation.
Like that opening Monday night game is interesting for the pomp and circumstances in the first quarter, and it's
because
an immediate
Russell
go to
Wilson
sleep.
Comes back to Seattle. But boy, outside of that, if you're watching Geno Smith or Drew Lock every week with the Seahawks,
awful. And they play the AFC West, and they play their own division, which is hard enough. Like, that's a 3-win football team this year.
Ooh. So are the Seahawks the most unwatchable? Now, you can't put them all 1 o'clocks because they're not an East Coast team. So they'd have to play some late window game. They'd have to play all of their home games late window games.
But just because you play in a late window game doesn't mean you're the game America gets.
Right. No, that's true. I'm just saying that the Lions fit the bill of the clean sweep of 1 o'clocks.
Right. To me, though, I think the Falcons and Panthers and Giants deserve that more than the Lions this year. I think that there is a good chance we're spending a year from now talking about, wow, the Lions were a good wild card team this year.
I don't think the Lions make the wild card, but I agree they're not the most unwatchable team. They proved that last year. They got guts. They've got a really interesting head coach. They've got good young players that I think care a lot. And look, Aiden Hutchinson's going to be worth watching, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely will be.
I think Hutchinson is the type of guy you kind of tune in to see how he does.
By the way, have you ever given off the impression you're a Jet fan? On Twitch, we're being told that the Jets are atrocious and you're showing a little bias.
Well, I said the Jets won't make the playoffs. So they mean I'm a Jets hater?
No, I think there are a lot of people mocking the Jets. You're not a Jets fan. I just wanted to make that clear.
No, definitively not. Pete the Body's the Jets fan on the staff.
Kaplan, too.
Yeah, Cap is a sneaky Jets fan.
Right. Red Sox, Celtic, but didn't take the Patriots for some reason. Left that for Zach Gelb.
Left it for Zach.